Welcome back to Real Talk for an Unreal World podcast. I appreciate everyone coming back every week and learning something new, getting some information, or just hearing about an experience that might work in your own life. That's everything that this podcast is about. I experience things in my life, I reflect on them, and then I share on them. And in this episode, I want to talk about how we can see energy. And I want to talk about what energy is, like the application of energy inside of ourselves, and how when we tune into that energy, how that can shape what we attract around us. Because energy attracts energy. And that's very important for us to know that we are made up of energy. But the important thing is, how do we see that energy? Like, where can we look for that around us externally and internally inside of us? And the first place we can look when we're looking inside of us is to our emotions. Our emotions will dictate a level of vibrational frequency that we emit. That vibrational frequency is created by the emotions that we are carrying or feeling throughout our day. So a good example of that is to look at when we're feeling sad or when we're feeling low. These are low vibrational frequencies. These are emotions that have us weighed down. Our energy is lower. It's more focused in a dense place, as opposed to feeling happy or having fun. Your energy is spiked. It's raised because your vibrational frequency is at a much higher rate due to the emotion. So that's one way you can kind of see how you are in control of your energy. Because when we're feeling low and dense, we're holding ourselves back. And typically that's done through unprocessed emotions. So if you're in your everyday life and you feel low and you can't understand why, you have no energy all the time, take a look at your thoughts. Take a look at your feelings. Because thoughts take energy in order to think about them. So if you're up in your mind all day, moving through things that happened in your past that you're trying to avoid, or worrying about things that haven't happened yet in the future, that takes energy. A lot of people are so drained just by what's going on in their mind. Not to mention that they're at work thinking about other things and trying to focus on work. So there's no energy for work. There's no energy for the human because it's spending its time on things that had already happened or things that haven't yet happened. And by the time they get home after a work day, when that priceless time arrives that you're able to be with yourself, they're too drained to put any attention or time and energy into themselves. And I just share about that because it brings in awareness to fatigue. Because if we're not paying attention to our energy and how to cultivate that energy within us and understanding the power that we have surrounding that energy to be able to cultivate positive energy just through a positive perspective, through positive thoughts, by letting go of the past and not worrying about the future, because the only way we can affect the future is in the present moment. That's a power. And that raises the energy level of the human because we are made up of energy. So if you're in a negative state or you're feeling low, depressed, afraid, stressed out, anxious, that energy attracts that kind of energy into your life because it's one and the same. It's a vibrational frequency that's being emitted from you that you are creating. And you are attracting that energy back to you. So if we see that in that way, then we know we can have the power and the choice to choose a different way of living. And how do we do that? Well, when we're talking about emotions and that field of energy, normally it's because we do not want to feel feelings that are uncomfortable to feel, or surrounding experiences that happened in our past. But it's important to understand that that feeling is trying to teach you something. It's not something you have to be afraid of. If you're afraid of a feeling, you're afraid of a lesson. And a lesson not learned will be repeated. So we keep ourselves in these cycles. And this is kind of what keeps us in a low vibrational state, is that we're not willing to gain the education from the feeling or the experience to learn how to apply it into the next experience. We end up taking things that we do not process, typically from our childhood or compounded over a lifetime, right to our deathbed because we're too afraid to feel those feelings and learn from them. But that's what this is. That's what all of this is. It's just an experience to learn about ourselves and really to connect back to that source of love. because energy created out of love is a high vibrational state of energy. And love is not always easy. Love can be very difficult, and love can accept patience very often in our lives, because what we understand as love may not be what love is. So to use love as a tool in our everyday lives for processing emotions, we can see the situation how it happened for us rather than to us. So if something happens for you, there's something for you to learn, no matter the situation. If your mother was controlling, look at that as an opportunity to see that you were strong enough to go through that, and then you were able to apply those lessons in your life as not to be a controlling individual in your family's life. It's interesting how the universe teaches us, right? How this whole design is teaching us. It's teaching us through extremely difficult lessons, very difficult emotions to face. But when things are difficult, it gives you the greatest reward. You never forget it. The lessons that you learned from a difficult situation, you don't forget. So it's actually kind of a good thing to have difficult lessons in your life as they garner difficult emotions to face, because it allows you to be better at putting yourself in situations where you'll know, because you'll be able to sense a feeling that experience or those people or that situation isn't for you, because you've learned through that avenue once before in your life. But if you hide from those emotions and you don't process those emotions, then you might put yourself back in that scenario because you never learned what you came to learn. And that's just a really easy way to see how emotions can work for you. And once you start understanding that the emotions are trying to teach you something, you can learn from the energy that's created from it, and you turn it into a positive. So a difficult experience may be viewed as a negative, but really by the time you're done processing it, it's actually a positive, and it's what pushes you forward to try again. That's what life is. School makes employees, but life will make a human being, an evolved human being that understands themselves and what they're here to do. The difficult experiences that I faced in my life through my drug addiction, at one point in my life, I struggled so much to face, as so many addicts do, because we refused to be accountable for what got us in that situation in the first place, which was ourselves. So that's a great place to start when looking at unprocessed emotions. You just be accountable for never addressing the emotion in the first place. That's a great place to start. And that's where I started. And I used love as a tool to navigate my past, because my past had already happened. Yes, I had done a lot of things that I wasn't proud of in my life. I was hiding from myself. I didn't understand love. I was never taught how to love myself and use love as a tool. But when I decided to become a student of love, I knew right then and there that I could use this tool of love to alleviate all of the things that happened in my past, because I was different in the present moment. I chose to be different in the present moment. So in a jail cell, where my freedom had been taken away from me, I elevated because I had decided to be somebody else right then and there in that jail cell. I was 36 years old, and it was, it was tough for sure, but beautiful at the same time. Like that moment when I made that choice, like everything changed. I had accepted love into my life and wanted to be a student of love. I was going to let love teach me. And it wasn't easy. It's not easy to apply love into every aspect of your life, but you get better at it because you really see that like love is just truth. It's living through truth. And the truth is such a high vibrational frequency because it's the light. So you live with the light. And that's this feeling that you can emit, this energy that you carry. You emit and you attract people on that same vibrational frequency at any stage along your commitment to becoming a student of love, because it's the greatest teacher, because it offers the most valuable results. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to become aware of is results speak, for anything that we try. Everybody wants to see results. With love, you see results because you live in the truth. You don't pretend that everything's okay. You go into the areas of you that are difficult and you go in with love. You don't go in alone. And like I said, how you can alleviate your past with love. It already happened. You just feel the emotions and you let them go because you've got to make room for something new, no matter how difficult it is. take a look around us. The external world that we're living in right now, society is becoming a very difficult place to live in terms of financial understanding. And finance is a big thing that drives fear, anxiety, and stress because people have taken on a lot of which they do not own. So they owe money for things that they do not own. And those are usually surrounding basic needs. Car, shelter, often food these days are being put on credit cards. So it gives you an opportunity, really, to see value in yourself and alleviate yourself of these things that hold you back so you can be present in the moment. Because the moment's what needs your attention right now. And really the only way you're going to get there is by letting go of the past. Because if we try and split ourselves up and put ourselves in two worlds by living in the past and living in the present at the same time, then we're going to be drained. And often this is why people are so tired. And this is why comforts and complacencies become such an attraction. It's easy to sit down and watch Netflix because you can just turn your brain off, or get lost on Instagram for 2-3 hours and learn nothing and not understand or remember any of the information you took in for that 3 hours. So it's important to see the power that you possess to really create the energy and the space that you want to live in. All those distractions eventually go away. You don't see any value in it anymore. You really see the value in yourself. And I talk about the external world becoming so difficult because I want you to see the things that you can control are within you. Your perspective on the world will change once you see the perspective inside you change. Once you see how you see yourself, everything around you changes. That's an energy. That's a positive way of thinking versus a negative. Fear, anxiety, and stress will hold you in a negative state. It will attract fear, anxiety, and stress. It's what has most people attracted to the news, attracted to watching and taking in information that they don't understand, that somebody else is telling them that is true. And more often than not, it is not true. But because we're too afraid to understand something, because our energy levels are so low, we don't mind having other people, sources, and businesses tell us what's good for us. And that brings me to an external source of energy we can talk about is food. Food has energy within it. But if we're not conscious and aware of the food that we're taking in or the energy that we're taking in, then we may be attracted to foods that hold a negative or low vibrational state of energy, such as high sugar and high fat foods, which is in America very common. This is a readily available, cheap source of food. But this stuff is not good for you because it's designed to hold you in a low energetic state, because it's easier to program an individual when they're low energy because they don't have any energy to defend themselves or to do their own homework or to go within, right? That's why this stuff is readily available. It's not good for you. It's there to have you attracted to comforts and complacencies. And that's okay. We can't change that. But what we can change is what we reach for in the grocery store. And I talk about this because I want you to become aware of why we do it. Things that taste good generally are not good for you. High sugar, high fats. But we practice that as being an acceptable means of taking in energy. But a bag of Doritos and a tub of ice cream is not going to do anything for you. And that's really important for you to know and become accountable for. Because as the world becomes more difficult, people are attracted to high sugar, high fat foods to distract from the feelings that they're feeling on the inside, because the high sugar, high fat foods gives them a different feeling, which changes the energy. So this is why I really put this way, is because it's important to know how our energy is being created within us. Yes, through thoughts, yes, through emotions, and yes, through food. So having that awareness and that practice, that's it. All I do is share about information, but really it's up to you to practice. I mean, when I made a choice to become a student of love, I had no idea how much my life was going to change. I walked away from a 23-year drug addiction. I decided to become a different person in jail. That happened. But the road ahead was not easy. Like, it was not easy. The psychological behaviors and patterns that I had created over that 23 years, oh my gosh, for what was acceptable. It's no different than an individual who reaches for a bag of Doritos or a Hungry Man or, a frozen lasagna for food. It's a pattern of thinking that is detrimental to our growth. It's one and the same. It's something that has us feel anything other than that feeling that we do not want to focus on the inside. But love is something that doesn't allow you to go into these places alone. And it's with you the whole time, right? Because love is truth. So basically, it's just trying to teach you to be true to yourself. Like, that's love. That's self-love. Just be true to yourself. And then those around you benefit from it because you're honest and you're authentic and you give off that energy and you show up for yourself. And self-reflection is a part of your daily practice. I mean, I self-reflect the moment I wake up in the morning because I think about the day before and I just kind of go over it and I go, okay, like, I'd like to be better here, here, and here, and I accept all of that. I'm human. I come here to learn. So whatever I did yesterday already happened. It's just an opportunity for me to be better today. So that's the beautiful thing about yesterday is that it's gone. It's already happened. But if you start your day with that practice, it's like, okay, you're going to make mistakes and that's all right. So that takes a difficult low vibrational state or energy and transmutes it or alchemizes it into high energetic experiences, even though they're difficult. That's love. That's the power of love. That is the energy of love, the energy of authenticity, the energy of truth. It's really simple, but our minds have been programmed with so many behaviors and patterns and information that is not good for us. So it's our job to become accountable, to unlearn and let go of everything that does not serve us. And that's everything that is a low energetic state. Energy is everything. It's moving all around us. Think about the earth. The earth produces an energy, which is why the plants grow, the grass grows, which is why the animals coexist with the plants, the water, the air, and the sun. Take trees, for example. They take in energy from the sun and they photosynthesize it to grow. Humans are no different. We just think we're better than it. And we don't find value in going and sitting in nature and learning from it. But it's such a wonderful teacher because it's rich in high vibrational frequencies. It has so much positive energy because that's all it is. The earth is so resilient. I mean, think about what it's going through right now. Oh my gosh. Humans are destructive, because we're uneducated in the understanding of the coexistence of us and nature. We're no different than the animals. We need the earth and we need to work with it in order to really have this human experience. But somewhere along the way, we've gotten so busy and uneducated that it's okay to destroy it and see it as a way to incur profit, but when you get into this high vibrational state and you just go and sit out in nature and, you just offer your gratitude to be here because really, I mean, that's what it's looking for is just gratitude. And how can we not be grateful? I mean, the earth under your feet is the reason we have this human experience. The air in your lungs is the reason we have this human experience. The water we drink, we cannot live without water, is the reason we have this human experience. And without the sun, good Lord, it'd be an interesting place to live. Very difficult, probably not probable. So the appreciation and the value that we can just get from the energy that the earth emits is a wonderful place for you to see energy outside of yourself. Cities have distorted the view of nature's energy. Everything that creates energy within the city is feeding off of that energy that it creates. So often we see people moving at such a fast rate. They're so busy. They have so much to do. They're always moving so quickly. Well, that's the energetic space that they're in. That's why cities move the way they do. Everyone is often very, very busy in the city. Not everyone, but most people, right? Because that's just the field of energy you've put yourself in. A chaotic, busy place. So there's very little time for stillness within. People do find it within the city, but it's quite rare. And that's a way to see your surroundings. And that's why when you go into a small town and everything's a little slower, it's difficult to be a part of because you're so used to the energy in the city. Now, that energy is often detrimental for humans' growth because the city just offers comforts and complacencies. Things that don't really have you connect with yourself because there's so much stimulation for you to connect with externally from you. And that's a really important thing to see. Is it of your creation or is it of someone else's creation? Something else, something inorganic, It's really important to see how that cultivates energy within you as well. Your creation will cultivate a high vibrational frequency no matter what you create. Even if you make a little dance up, like even if you dance in your house, you are creating positive energy. Even if you have no skills at all when it comes to artistry, but yet you put paint on a piece of paper and it looks like nothing, that is creating a high vibrational form of energy, because creation is a beautiful way to see energy. And it's something we all possess the ability to do. You do not have to be an artist to be creative. That is a misconception. They told me that in school. I wasn't good at drawing, so the art teacher just overlooked me. And actually that put me in a place where I never thought I was an artist. I struggled with that for years to understand like what it means to be an artist, because school told me if I couldn't draw, then I wasn't able to create. But that was incorrect. They took that power away from me because I gave it to them, because it was a misconception of the art teacher. But once I understood that creativity was born of my own free will, well, then I knew I was an artist and I didn't need validation from anyone. And that energy is what I create with. So it's beautiful. These are just tools for you to use along your journey, because I think it's important for us to connect back to the energy within rather than giving in to the energy that is around us. That is not of our creation. And we follow this energy that often isn't good for us. So it's important to see where and how we've arrived at that energy and why we move the way we move, why we think the way we think, why we feel the way we feel. It's all derived of energy. Yeah, I think it's important too to understand, if you got children, they're filled with energy. And parents try to slow kids down so often, or quiet them or control them or whatever it may be. But think of a child kind of like a puppy, like a puppy needs to run. And we know that as humans, you've got to, if you get a puppy, you're taking that dog out 3-4 times a day. You're going to let it run till it's tired. Well, children are the same thing, but they're puppies for much longer than a puppy, So to be aware of that and conscious of the role that you take on as a parent, and to show up for your children in a way that you just let them be them, controlling kids will control their energy. And yeah, to a degree, we're here to guide children for sure, but to learn from the energy that they displace. They're beautiful teachers. That's a brilliant way to learn, is through your children, because they carry that connection to source that we're all looking to connect back to. And they're wonderful teachers how to get there, because their innocence is wonderful. It's us that fills them with fear, anxiety, and stress in society. The education system puts all this pressure on them at a very young age, and it begins to teach them self-sabotage, and be critical of themselves. So it's our job to remind them of the importance of who they are and the value they bring, no matter the level of anyone else's dictation of them or someone else's putting their value on them. I hope this episode helps you. I just was thinking about energy, what it means to me, and how I see it in the world. I'll share a story with you right now. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see definitely I have a different look. And the reason that is, I'm going to explain this to people, is because this is an interesting little story. This just happened a couple days ago. I've had a shortcut beard, as most of you know who watch on YouTube or watch my social media clips or whatever. I've had that, my little style going on for quite some time in my life. And I was shaving with my razor, and the clip fell off when I was shaving, but I was pressing into my cheek, and I put a big bald spot on the side of my face. And I looked at my wife right away and I was like, oh no. And we both just kind of laughed, and I was like, okay, here it is. This is the moment the beard is coming off. So I just embraced it. It was a difficult moment. It's like, okay, change in identity kind of thing, right? But it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to have fun with myself, just kind of see myself from a different perspective. So I shaved off my beard and I left this little mustache and this little piece of hair under my lip. I don't know what to call that. But then I thought, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to change my hair. Let's try something different. So we just moved up to this little town. So we went to try and find a barber in the little city located by us. And it was a guy from another country, and he seemed confident that he could cut my hair the way it was in the picture. So I thought, okay, I've had some bad haircuts over my time, but sure, your confidence is going to allow me to, I'll use your services. So I go in. A couple days later, this guy. I've had some bad haircuts in my life, but you always remember your top 3, because when you come out of a bad haircut, it's difficult not to forget. It really, when your hair sucks and you just know it's so bad, so bad, you're like, wow, I just paid for that. In the moment, I'm telling you, the first 2 minutes the guy started on my hair, I was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't know what he's doing. But he'd already made such a gash in the side of my head that I was like, oh my gosh, maybe he can even this out. And I was analyzing it in my mind, thinking cheering this guy on quietly, thinking he could figure this out. He did not figure it out. I should have stopped him right away, but I didn't. So I had a couple choices. I could have changed my energy into anger, and I could have, hurt the guy's feelings and made him feel little. I could have done that very easily, because the guy who was overseeing the shop could see that I was just in a place of pure astonishment at what this kid was doing. And I never said anything. I chose, it was my choice to go and sit in the chair, and I'd committed at that point. So it was also my choice to pay the guy and just leave quietly, right? There's no sense in distributing that kind of low vibrational frequency through an anger outburst. I don't need to do that, right? It's just hair, and it's something I practice. And again, that's using the tool of love. I immediately went out to my truck and was like, oh my gosh. My wife actually walked up right when I got to the truck, and she's like, no, this isn't good. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I look like the guy who just got a really bad haircut, right? So I immediately got on the phone and found a barber an hour away. And I told the guy what happened, and he said, look, man, he's like, you're in good hands. Come into the shop and I'll cut your hair. And I could hear in his voice that he carried this energy with him. I could sense it. I could pick up on it. He was calm, cool, reserved. He just had that vibrational frequency in his vocal tones, because that's what he was carrying within himself. So the guy cut my hair the same day, that day. I get there. Man's name's Kyle. Really, really amazing guy. I was really low energy driving into the barber shop. I was so tired. I was ready just to go to sleep. It was an hour and a half away from my house. But I thought, no, I committed, let's get this done. I go into the shop, I explained the guy what happened, and we started talking, and we started sharing about our lives, because that's what I do. I tell everyone about, what I'm up to, and if they ask, right? And he asked, and I explained to the guy, I was a heroin addict for 23 years. And he had shared with me some similarities that he grew up in his environment. And, it was interesting. I went in there with a very low energy, and this guy carried this high energy. It was really the first time I'd become very aware of the transition of energy between two individuals. He shared energy with me that day in that chair just by communicating. I want to talk about that, because the value of conversation and getting things off of your chest, or just getting to know another human being that carries the same vibrational frequency as you, can change your life, can change your day. So the community of individuals that you hold around you, that carries energy. If you're around individuals who can cultivate a high energetic state or a high vibrational frequency, you in your low days can benefit from that, as can they in their low days. And that's the importance of community and the importance of being aware of the people that are around you. If they don't serve your highest potential for growth, then you need to take a step back. You need to find a new community. And I'm very grateful for this guy because we had a 40-minute conversation together. I left there feeling great, but I also left there with a new friend. The guy is on the level, and I'm very grateful for him. And Kyle, if you're listening to this, man, like, I appreciate you so much for that day because you were a wonderful teacher for me. And that's really important for me to share because that's what life is all about. We're all here to teach each other something. Job titles create egotistical ideologies of what life is all about. It's not about that. Everything that we've been through in our lives, that experience, that is the most priceless information that we can carry. So I don't want you to be afraid to share that because the man didn't have to share anything with me about all of the difficulties that he went through in life. But because I was open to it and I opened up to him, he felt the comfort to be able to do the same thing. Now you got two people sharing energy together and they're lifting each other up by talking about the things that held them back in their life. So really look at that. That's another way to process your past. Find individuals that are receptive to listening to you. Those are friends. That's what it means to be a friend. Is someone who's not going to judge you for the experiences that you had in this life. And it's okay if you don't have those friends because a lot of people don't know what it means to be a friend because the people that they look up to don't know what it means to be a friend. But there are definitely individuals on this planet that live with love, that live with truth and allow themselves to make mistakes to get to know who they are. So if you feel like you've opened up to somebody and maybe you made a mistake doing that because that person judged you, that's okay. Use that with the tool of love to just navigate to another human being. Because if you got to talk about the things that are going on inside of you, and you feel like you can't afford a therapist or you can't afford a psychiatrist or something like that, you just need a community of individuals. And there's going to be somebody out there, if you change the way you think, that's going to want to hear your story. That being said, if you haven't listened to the episode 40 with Kelly Christine, it was the previous episode to this one. It is an absolutely fantastic story about how a woman transformed her past into who she is today. And that woman that she is today is an absolute warrior spirit. There was an immense amount of physical and sexual abuse that took place, born into a family of addiction. And she chose to not be a statistic and to understand love as a tool and apply that into her life and overcome all of the trauma, all of the past that most people would become a statistic and just become an addict after enduring. So if I can offer that episode to you to look into, to see how to process a past, it's really a beautiful thing. I just appreciate everybody for your practice. Always, that's my, my greatest gratitude comes towards your work. I can only offer ideas, share through my experiences, and plant seeds, or try and water a seed that was planted in you at a very, very young age, which was love. I just want you to water that seed, grow it, and learn how to use it again, because love is the medication. We just have to learn how to use the prescription, because it's the antidote for everything in our lives. We can self-heal, we can change our vibrational frequency, we can live in a beautiful time on this planet by just changing the way we feel and think. So I appreciate you so much for your time. My social media links are Real Talk for an Unreal World. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify or YouTube, whichever one you're watching on. Like, they're on all podcast platforms, is the podcast. So if you can't get to YouTube or whatever, you can listen to it on one of those. My Twitter is Real Talk 4 Unreal. And my Gmail is realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. You can message me with any questions, or I don't know, if you got something on your mind. For this social media, I cut up the clips and I put 1 minute, minute and a half segments throughout the week, just to give people something to think about, kind of give them a reminder of what this all is in this life, and to really believe in themselves and take back their power. So much love. I appreciate you so much.